Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and welcome to a brand new season of Who Reviews the Reviewers. It's season 2 and we're going to do our first round of deliberations. We have 8 brand new contestants. We're about to talk about their first round videos and at the very end vote somebody off and pick a top banana. But first, here are my co-hosts. He's the second best cook I know. It's Vince!
Yay! Who's the first?
He's my mortal enemy, Vince, but I just love his cooking.
Yeah, that guy's not me.
And proving that grown men can play with toys every day and still appear dignified. It's the review spot.
What?
And watch out for his hands of fate. It's the Real Manos.
Hello.
And a very special welcome for the winner of Who Reviews the Reviewers Season 1, our brand new judge, and the only guy I know who can make a review of an episode of Super Mario and make it feel like an intellectual exercise. It's Mistare Fusion.
I'm new.
Yay!
Hey, new!
Whee! I regretfully inform you that Brown Cook Eric is not with us tonight and may not be with us the whole season. Hopefully, sometime during the season he'll be able to pop back in. He's been having computer problems and things like that, so he called me the other day and said, I don't know when I'm going to be back. And we had Mr. Fusion as our backup judge, and now he is going to be a regular judge, and we're all super, super excited to have him with us. So once again, Mr. Fusion, welcome, well done from last year, and we all bow to you for your amazing videos.
You don't have to bow. Go ahead. Stand back up. That's okay.
Hey, regular.
Yay, I've been promoted already.
The winner of this year's Who Reviews the Reviewers is going to get a $100 gift card to Amazon.com. He or she will be featured on Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast, and will participate in a joint panel with the contest judges. And yes, sometime in the near future, Mr. Fusion will cash in on his last 2 out of those 3 prizes as well. It's kind of sad when the cash prizes are easier to cough up than the non-tangible ones.
But we'll get there. It's good.
And now we're going to jump right into it. We're going to first talk about Milanos 1992's review of Russian soup. And of course I forgot to mention what the challenge was, but the challenge was to review a food, and the idea behind this one was specifically about details. How well can you describe something that we cannot necessarily tell exactly what you're talking about because we don't have one of the senses you do because we're not eating the thing you're eating. So we're going to talk about Milanos 1992's review of Russian soup.
Greetings and salutations, gentlemen and ladies. This is Milanos 1992 here today to review a food which I like for Geekvolution's Who Reviews the Reviewers competition. The food that I will be reviewing today is the Russian borscht, or, as it's more commonly known there in America, the Red Russian soup, consisting mainly of the ingredients of Conan oil, beef, pork, lemon juices, pound beets, red beets, and various vegetables such as potatoes, onions, garlic, and lettuce. Pretty heavy on the calories, yes, I know.
And we're going to start with Mistare Fusion.
Oh, borscht. I really like this one. He mentions the word chewing at some point in the video, and really, he has a way of talking that really seems to get a real tangible sense to the words. It's really helped in this challenge, I thought. Had a lot of, he told a really good story. It wasn't just, you really got a sense of the context of people who eat this soup, the kinds of ingredients you'd put in this soup. So I got a real good sense of just the whole picture of what kind of people would eat borscht. I also, some people might disagree with me, but actually I really enjoyed the helium voice going on there, and as somebody who's been in the contest before, I think I know exactly why I did it, which I think he was running out of time and sped himself up, because I used to do that all the time in my videos. Secret, I always made sure to try to hide it by keeping the pitch down, but I love the fact that he just said, I'm speeding my voice up and I'm just going to sound like this, and it made it even funnier to me. He's really interesting to listen to, especially when he sounds like that.
This is actually, from what I think, is a example of how one creative choice can, I think, hurt an overall project. And after he auditioned, I checked out a few of his videos, which I kind of do now. I guess that's my thing, where I kind of get an idea of who's submitting, and found myself rather liking him. Actually, he was, I think, my second choice. So I was looking very, very much forward to this video, and I have to say the helium voice made it almost unwatchable for me. I had a lot of trouble getting through. This is the one I actually watched the most, ironically, because I actually initially had trouble getting through it several times, and it was just I think it was a choice that I could have handled if it was maybe just through part of the video. And I kept expecting it to be part of the video. And matter of fact, I would rewatch it every so often because I thought it was a technical mistake. I really did. I thought, oh no, he made a mistake. He's going to have to take it down and resubmit it and fix it. And he never did. And he kept that choice. And it completely took me out of this video. As far as things I did like, when I was able to focus on what he was saying, I really did enjoy that he was able to kind of create sort of a history and a background for Russian soup. And I think he describes it rather well. It was one of the videos that I could really kind of get a sense of how it tastes, even though I've never tasted it before in my life. The Neil Gaiman joke was rather funny. But I have to say I had a lot of problems with this one.
I'll echo Manos real quick. I agree with the voice. Had it just been a small segment of the overall video, I would have appreciated it more. I liked his humor. I thought his humor worked very well. I think he has a personality that's is suitable for his delivery. Very I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. Understated, nothing too over the top. And I like things that are just a little bit based more on wit rather than goofiness. So Milan Jeftik, good job. But I think it's important to mention that history, however, though it is really nice that it's giving a historical background, it doesn't necessarily add a lot to your review itself. Because one of the things that we talked about a lot in the first round of this stuff was the difference between a book report and review. So how does that support what you're reviewing? And in this case, I sort of felt that the talking about it being high calorie and who it's really for doesn't really tell me what it tastes like. And since the point of this particular challenge was to describe and with this emphasis on flavor and telling us what things taste like, I didn't feel like he did that part of it. He told us what it was for. He didn't tell us what it is or he didn't really get into any senses. He didn't describe any flavors, and he pretty much kept it to ingredients and function. And while that's useful, I don't think it was wholly satisfying for me.
I'll start good first. From an editing end of it, I would say that his transitions between the stills are probably one of the better editing jobs of this challenge so far for these videos here. It was paced well. I think he was very well articulate when he was speaking about what he seemed to know very much about it. I would agree from the fact that it did sound more like a project or a history of soup, of this particular soup, rather than his own personal experience. Probably something I'm going to comment on as a strike for a couple of reviews is the idea that I would have preferred a more on-camera, hands-on approach to the food at some point during the video. I think his voice, the higher-pitched voice, worked to kind of dissipate some of the more fact-based information that he put in the review, but then after a while the voice really started to wear out the overall feel of the review, and I think it was a gamble that he probably shouldn't have tried, at least this early on in the challenges.
I will agree that was definitely a risk, and I didn't like it either. I found the chipmunk voice to be kind of unbearable, and I don't know, maybe I would have found it at least funnier had he made the helium joke at the beginning, because then when it was all said and done, it was like, oh, and I'm doing this because I was at a helium factory, and I was like, okay, that's hilarious, but the weird thing is it being sped up the way it is somehow made the 3-minute video feel like 10 for me. It seemed like it just kept going, and he had a lot of great historical points and things like that, like people were saying before. I was kind of impressed with how much he was able to put into this, although I suppose that it was maybe a bit of a cheat since he was talking really fast, that he was able to get as much substance into the video as he could. I felt like I learned a lot, which was kind of cool, and I liked that, and I had this with several of these today. I liked that it was personal. I liked that he picked something that told us a little bit about him. He picked something that he cared about, had a history with, and that was really kind of cool. I think there was a great mix of comedy and substance, and the comedy was hilarious. So anyway, that's That's all I've got. Does anybody have anything extra to add? Anything you wanted to rebuttal from anything anybody said, or any major point you think wasn't said?
I did want to say, in regards to Vince, I do agree to a certain extent that a review and a history aren't necessarily the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do think in this case though that he somehow managed to tie it in together, because I think to a certain extent, a review is going to tell you who this product is for, what kind of people or what kind of audience would get the most out of using it. And that said, I do still think he did use very good word choice in describing the food when he did. So I thought it was a good balance.
Sure,
between history and review.
Yeah, maybe there just wasn't quite enough of that there, but what was there was good.
Lance Fusion is right.
I would agree.
I agree with that.
I'm not saying that it's wholly absent. I'm saying that it's not present enough for me.
I'm just saying, actually, that was one of the things I did like about the video, where I am not familiar with Russian soup, so
yeah, I wasn't either. I learned a lot.
Background information did help me
I'm not a fan.
Take that, Neil Gaiman.
You have a friend, you have an ally in your hatred of the soup.
I also think he had a running joke that I would be totally cool with seeing again, where he said a couple times, "You don't have to laugh if you don't want to."
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Let's go ahead and go on then to sXeblues' review of Mountain Dew Code Red.
Hey there, cats and kitties. I'm the Blues Man at sXeblues, and it's going to be a brief little review from Mountain Dew Code Red. One of the things I actually find of particular interest with this soda beverage is actually how it came about. If we go back about a decade, 2000, 2001 respectively, it began as a special flavor mixture that you could find in Taco Bell establishments, and through, word of mouth and critical acclaim, essentially, from the patrons, as well as them constantly asking where it could be found, if it could be bought, word eventually got back to PepsiCo, the makers of the more traditional green Mountain Dew, if you will, and they must have thought they had a winner on their hands, because eventually they put it on store shelves.
Okay, something that quickly caught my eye with this one was just the manner that he shot this. It was mostly just a close up of the bottle itself. I kind of wish that he'd either had put the camera on something or just gone with a still image, because since it was on that bottle for so long, it was just kind of shaky cam, and that sort of I was sort of off-putting to me. I thought he had a good, really detailed history of the drink, but I guess it's possible that what Vince was saying about Milan Jeftics is what I think is slightly more applicable here. There was a lot of history, not as much review for me, but I really did enjoy the trivia. I liked the fact that he did the different logos, how it looked back then, how it looks now, because I was a very, very bizarre child. I used to collect soda cans whenever they would change their logos. So that's the kind of thing that I would keep up with. It's like, oh,
that sounds just like you.
It's like, oh, it's not spelled out Mountain anymore. It's now MTN. I gotta save this for posterity. And to this day they're like in my mother's attic, cans from like the late '90s. In terms of review, he did do something that most of the other people didn't do, is in talk briefly about like the health warnings, people who maybe shouldn't be drinking carbonated beverages, things like that. It wasn't maybe as extensive as I would have hoped it would have been, but it was good there. I'm glad he mentioned that, because at least it did stand out for me for that reason. Nobody else mentioned that. Things like health issues.
I hadn't realized anything dealing with the history of Code Red, and I have now discovered that I was living a horrible lie. That I didn't know anything about how its humble beginnings. At Taco Bell or something like that.
Taco Bell, yeah.
Taco Bell, which actually shouldn't surprise me. Code Red, Mountain Dew, Taco Bell, that's like perfect. You should go right into a hospital ward. Which is a good reason why he brought up maybe health benefits or lack thereof of this product. So yeah, I was learning a lot actually from the review, which is what I always like, specifically when we do this show now. He also talked about kind of the sort of fan base that this stuff has, which was kind of cool. I think it was one of the few, if only, reviews that did that. I will say that I agree with the shaky cam. I think what he did was he did a nice mix of I think some still shots himself on camera, and then holding the bottle, which maybe it was a little shaky. I mean, I almost expected the Cloverfield monster to show up. And I think your suggestion is good, that maybe he just should have put a still frame of it. Also, I should say his on-screen persona is really good.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
The main thing that you latch onto during this is that it has a decent sense of history. It's a book report, and he does a good job. He's well researched. He knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't do much of a review, and he gets into a little bit. He says that there's a sort of rush of cherry or something like that. He gets into the flavor a little bit, but the description lies mainly in history for this guy, and there's not much of a review here. But that being said, there is some review. I feel like the two guys that really stood out as book reports for me were sXeblues and Milan Jeftic, and I like both the videos. But moving on, I think he has an interesting style. I think I like he's so relaxed and he's trying to be so formal, and I don't know whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I find it interesting. And
let's go with good.
Yeah, that's good. I find it interesting, and I'd like to see him be a little less formal, maybe, or maybe really, really try to, like, maybe he can push himself in one direction or another and see how far he can take himself and try new things and see what he's doing right or wrong within these two styles that he seems to be meshing together.
Does he come off as uncomfortable, or?
I don't think he's uncomfortable. I just think he's trying to do something that's not necessarily what he usually does, if that makes sense. Now, maybe he does. I haven't watched his channel, I'll admit. But when he sits there and says, "Hey there, cats and kitties," and I think that's the type of thing that a radio show host would say. And then he launches into this attempt at analysis, and he's well researched, and it seems like he's trying to write a paper. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he would be a little bit better off the cuff. Or maybe he would be a little bit better if he had a more voice in his scripting rather than just the points that he's trying to make, if that makes any sense.
Actually, I find that this was one of the videos that was the best paced. It seemed like he had a very good grasp of how much time he had to work with, and every bit of that time was well used. Even if he was throwing in facts about it, maybe it seemed more like a report, but he was very well planned out. Even though that some scenes, a bit of the shake cam, a tripod certainly could have benefited from it, improving the review. But I think his pacing, he was very well aware of what he needed to say, and I think he delivered it very well. I like how he capped the front of the review and the end of the review with him on camera. There were moments throughout the review itself, though, the way it was worded, it almost seemed as if I was watching it on a video and not maybe necessarily listening to it. I would immediately expect it to cut to his face again, but it didn't happen. I think a little too much time was probably spent on the actual bottle, and if he was going to spend so much time on the bottle, maybe he should have used a tripod and maybe benefited from just zooming in, zooming out, or maybe rotating the bottle just to re-stimulate the eye of any viewer watching it, so it's not just the same image, for a span of a minute or so. But a very solid review. I thought it was very well paced. I thought he had a very good sense of pacing for this review.
I agree with absolutely everything Spot just said. He said a bunch of what I was going to say, so I don't have to talk now.
I'm sorry. Hop out. I'll pack my stuff and leave.
I think his structure was great. That was the big thing I was impressed with, was just as Spot said, capping it off and not just like having a space at the beginning and the end, but having a very clear introduction and a very clear conclusion. I think that there are some other folks today that didn't have enough of that going on, and I felt very comfortable watching this. And like you said, he used his time really well. Even using a webcam, you can make it look slightly less webcam-y and I'm not saying that it's a problem that you're using a webcam, but you can make it look more professional by, like a lot of people said, putting the camera on something stationary, even if you don't have a tripod. Rig something up, so that it's not jumping around, because there's, like folks said, there's no reason that shouldn't have just been a still, unless you want to be on camera the whole time or mix it up more with different images. I do like the mix of having you sometimes being on camera and sometimes not, but I don't think that he's quite gotten his style down yet. I don't think he's quite sure yet. Do I want to be on camera? Do I not want to be on camera? How much? Vince was talking about how he wasn't scripted, or about how he was scripted. Maybe he should go off script. I couldn't tell, which is interesting, and is maybe a point in his favor. I could never tell if he was scripted or not. If he is reading, he's reading really well, and I'm kind of impressed with that. I didn't have the same problem Vince had about him being too formal and stuff like that. I thought that his screen presence was quite fine. Moving on then to Sid Part 2's review of Rustic Crust gluten-free pizza crust, probably the longest title of any of the reviews this time.
Hey, Sid Part 2 here, and today I'm going to cook something and review it. What I'm going to cook is this. It is a Rustic Crust gluten-free pizza crust. Now, for those of you that don't know what gluten-free pizza is, or gluten-free food for that matter, I'm going to explain it to you. Gluten-free food is a food primarily made for people with celiac disease, people like myself. Now, if you don't know what celiac disease is, allow me to explain that. See, celiac disease is its own personal little circle of heck.
Fusion, what did you think of this one?
I'm going to get my negative out of the way first, and this is something that I've pointed out when I was in the contest last year, is that it appears to me that his video is stretched out to 16:9, and that makes everything look all stretchy and so that did sort of distract me. I don't know if it distracted anybody else. That's just one of my things that I always pick up on. So
I guess it would be wrong of me to say that distracted me.
There are a couple other videos that do this. This is the first one that I saw that this sort of does this as an in-process review. Is in rather than just having images on the screen and talking about it, he goes through the process. He shows you the ingredients. He actually makes the thing and then gives you a review as he's eating it. So it's a lot of very very on camera, very very personal. Which I thought was really really a good tactic to use for this kind of challenge. I thought he had some good word choice, and I learned a lot of it. It was personal for him because obviously mentions in the video about the reason why he has to have free things. I like the use. I don't usually use annotations on YouTube videos myself, but I sort of liked the fact that he did take that moment out and stop the video and put those little annotations up about what a gluten-free diet means. I thought that was really funny. So while he doesn't necessarily seem to have like a really high-tech setup, I thought he did a good job of making do with what he had.
That's what was bugging me. I was trying to figure out. I'm not very good at visual presentation, as you can tell from my videos. Okay, what Lance was saying was the one thing that I couldn't put my finger on about it. But the thing I liked a lot about this video was the personal stake in the subject, actually, and the condition that he has to suffer. And it's one of those weird conditions that, you can have pretty much a normal life unless you do something everybody else does, and, it can be dangerous for you, which is, in a weird way, kind of scary. What I liked about the pause and annotations was explaining, how he couldn't eat wheat. And it was funny at first, and then the fact that he kept the pause on for a minute kind of turned it into a little kind of like sobering for the viewer. Like, yeah, that's right. Oh man, that really does suck. And
yeah,
you kind of like have a second to think about what it's really like to be him and have this problem. The way he presents this subject at first, which could have been any food item, really, he could have done anything, which it was a good method to really kind of suck you into the review. And of course, he does a review discussing the actual taste and right on camera, which I liked a lot. Kind of put me into it, so I like this video a lot.
I think his description was the strongest part of his review. It was he gave us a play-by-play, and it was this really. He seemed to be totally in the moment and really good at just pointing out what he needed to point out on the fly. Now, maybe he'd made one of these previously and took the time to really think about it before he got on camera and ate it and then told us, but I think that was his strongest thing. One of the things that he said that bugged me just a little bit, it wasn't a problem, it just bugged me a little bit, the hyperbole when he said your own personal heck, and it was funny. I agree. But, you know, to some extent, I just caution people on the use of, like, personal hyperbole because sometimes it can seem self-indulgent rather than humorous. I do enjoy what he did overall. I found the pause thing troublesome to just a second, the annotation. The reason being is that I think he did that in his entry video as well. And if he were to do that every time, I would start grading him down for it. Not that we're signing a letter grade at this or anything, but the reason being is that... The reason being is that I think a reviewer needs to be able to be concise and thorough at the same time, especially if we're doing videos and it's a spoken video. I think that's something that people need to be able to find a good middle ground at. And if you're inserting things in your video and stopping it, it seems like you're cheating the time frame.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that in his. I don't think he used annotations. It was he had like the plot summary in the description of the video.
Yeah. I got so confused about that. It paused and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I didn't even realize that it would start again. I started it myself. Like, I didn't know you could even do that.
Well, you learned something new today.
That was so weird. Real quick, I also got to mention that personal heck line. He actually emailed me about that. He was like, "Can I say the word hell if I'm talking about the state?" and I said sure, but he just did it that way anyway. It was really funny. When he got to that part, I was like, "Well, I told you could do it." Kind of funny. Go ahead, review spot.
Actually, just talking about the annotations that he used in the beginning, I will say that it was very jarring in the beginning because it really interrupted your following of the video. Like you got in and you were really starting to follow the video, and then there was just a bit of a jar to it. I gotta admit, I'm a bit of an idiot. I was actually clicking the words. I'm thinking, oh, for more information on celiac disease, click the following links. And then I realized I'm dumb.
I did that too.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one then.
Yeah, I did it too.
I will say one thing that was nice about it was it did save him a lot of excess baggage by adding that information into the review that might have bogged it down. So to be able to throw it up there, it's also allowing the viewer to participate, where if you weren't really paying attention, you would all of a sudden say, oh, sorry, what does that say? And then all of a sudden you're being pulled into the video. I found he was very warming and very natural on camera. I liked how he broke down, the ingredients. He gave a description. He talked about how it affects him personally, with the celiac disease and stuff like that. The only real critique I would make about the video itself was the time he spent eating the pizza. The description I think worked well enough, but the fact that it was tuned in on the one, it was only him eating it at the table, and there was really no, maybe some changes of scene, maybe a close-up of the pizza as he was describing it further, maybe a cut here and there, just something to break it up a slight bit, but overall I thought the video was pretty good.
This was my favorite in terms of presentation. I really liked the kind of cooking show format that he had. Sid Part 2 is I'm somewhat familiar with him, and he is a film guy. Even if you didn't know that, you can tell he's a film guy. He has a really good sense of editing. He's got really good comedic timing, but he also just has a good sense of, like, when should I make cuts? Where should I put the camera? I like that he's not just sitting there with the already cooked pizza the whole time. He takes you through the entire experience of making looking at the thing. What is it? We put it in the oven. We sit down and we eat it. I agree with Spot about him spending too much time eating the pizza, although I think that he still did a really good job with the editing of not making us watch him eat too long. He'd take a bite and then he'd say, this is what I think of this part, this is what I think of this part. I think that he also did the best at doing just what my description was for the challenge of trying to pull us in so that we can experience this thing with you. He also was the most critical, I think, of the thing that, and I was going to mention with sXeblues that I thought that maybe part of the only qualm I had with that was just the choice of the thing. Where, I mean, it wasn't a problem that he picked soda. It's just that he picked something he obviously loved, so he didn't have a lot of very much criticism at all, except for just simply it's not real healthy for you. And Sid Part 2 picked something that was really personal to him that he didn't necessarily completely love, which was really interesting, and it was really down to earth. I also thought that his ending stinger joke was hilarious.
Yes, I loved that.
It was like, I'm going to put the camera in the oven. That's a terrible idea.
That was
bring up
genius. That joke. I love the intro.
Genius. Yeah, I have very, very few complaints about this one. I was quite impressed with it. And now let's go on to Coolio Vid's 101 review of Nutella Ferrero.
Hey, what's up guys? Coolio Vids here, and today we're going to be looking at Nutella Ferrero. It's an Italian kind of peanut butter spread thing. Alright, so this is Nutella. It's basically what the Italians use, and if you haven't noticed, I am Italiano. So this is my kind of peanut butter, basically. It is a hazelnut spread with skim milk and coca. Not cocoa, it's something different. But it's basically a chocolatey, hazelnutty spread you can put on toast, brownies, a bunch of different stuff. See? The original hazelnut spread. Very, very delicious. It's very, very good.
This one was interesting to me because of the order that it was posted. It sort of feels a lot like Sid Part 2's to me, because the choice was sort of personal. It was another one of what I call the in-process review, where we actually see him eat it and him review it as he's doing it. So I'm not sure if that made it suffer slightly a little bit in my eyes, just because I just seen that Sid Part 2 do something similar and do it very, very well. Or maybe that just doesn't leave me with that much unique things to say about Coolio Vids, simply because most of the things I said about Sid Part 2 I could easily say for Coolio Vids as well. I've heard of Nutella before, but it's not something I've ever had or really even seen all that much. It's kind of at least where I'm from, it's not a very common type of thing, so I thought that was a good choice. And like I said, also a personal choice. He brings that into his, apparently it ties into his heritage. But since he knows that it's not something that not many people are aware of, his word choice in there was good, comparing it, the flavors, comparing it to the peanut butter, comparing it to different types of chocolate, so that I was able to get a good sense of what this might taste like. And I thought that was really the shining spot of his video, was that it made me want to, try Nutella because I had something I could easily relate it to.
I didn't know this, but I guess Coolio Vids and I share something in common, where we are both Italian. And
you both like to spread things on bread.
That's right. I do. I love my bread spreading. And I've never had Nutella. And he almost speaks in a way that you aren't a really good Italian, so I feel really bad. I mean, I don't even say Nutella in the mock Italian voice. Like, now, to my defense, as a good Italian, I have smashed someone's kneecaps. So, I have done that.
You are vindicated then. You are vindicated.
I wonder if you had that in common.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll have to talk to him. I do like Coolio Vids' presentation. He has a kind of warm, engaging voice. He does mostly kind of like first-person camera videos where, like you do, Review Spot. So in a weird way, when he's eating it, it's like we're eating it. Did anybody get that feeling? And also, I agree about the comparisons. It did give me a feeling of what Nutella tastes like. And, it made me want to go get some. Actually, I'll say this. After I watched that, I went and made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh, that's not even close.
I know, but it's the only thing I had in the apartment, so I made it.
Coolio Vid's number one attribute is his personality. He's so welcoming. He's so friendly. He seems like just this cool kid, this type of person that you want to pat on the head and say, "Yeah, you go ahead and talk to me. I'll listen. You're entertaining."
Oh. You gonna pat him on the head?
Yeah, I just want to pat him on the head.
That's not condescending at all.
Did you give him a shiny new nickel?
I'll give him
a first round, you immediately called him out on his age.
Well, that's the thing, is that he seems so bubbly and friendly, and and I'm not trying to say he seems young, but he does seem young, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And
I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. That was really funny when you said that.
No, it is funny, but I think that works in his favor. Anyway, he created a lot of dramatic build with his presentation. He's like, all right, we're going to lead into this. So he had a nice construction that I was like, man, I can't wait for him to get to his description. I want to know what this stuff tastes like. And granted, I've had Nutella before, so I know what it tastes like. I wanted to know what he thought it tastes like. So when he got to the actual description of the food, I felt like he just winged it and that he didn't put a lot of effort into it. And I felt like what he mostly did was state what the ingredients are and then say that it was good. And that's a part of it, but I felt like it fell short. relating it to peanut butter was enough for consistency's sake, but the food there's no peanuts in it. So does it really taste like peanuts, or is it just that he's thinking that it tastes like peanuts?
I don't like Nutella. I've never liked Nutella. My wife bought me Nutella, and I distinctly said to her, if you ever buy me Nutella again, I want a divorce. And, well, what were we talking about again?
I'm going to break your kneecaps.
Being that this is the kind of style of review that I do, I can kind of see the pros and maybe some of the shortcomings that reviewing food can do as a first person. First things first, I can say that Coolio is very personable. He's very approachable. He's very bright, like not intellectually bright, but I mean like bright in the way he presents himself. I feel like when he's talking, it's very, very engaging. The one problem I had with the review itself, and I'm very guilty of this myself, is the fact that when you review a food, you can only talk so much about it that you sometimes have to start throwing filler in there. And I don't know if he really had enough material to pace out the entire time that he was shooting it for. But I thought overall the review was really, really good. He clearly knows how to review stuff. He knows how to present himself, and there really wasn't a lot of awkward, kind of stuff like that. A very strong review by Coolio.
I like that, like Sid Part 2, we got to actually see the experience of him making the thing, putting it on the bread, eating it. I think it was less cool just because we knew he had it bunches and bunches of times. Again, I mean, that's not a problem. It just, I guess it's difficult not to compare, videos to other videos when it's all in the same challenge. But it was less effective just because he chose something that we knew he knew really well and loved a lot. And so I think the only negative thing he had to say about it was that he didn't like the way they put the seal on, and like that was about it. It was just kind of a packaging thing. Again, you're not always going to have something negative to say about something, especially that you really, really love, because a lot of times, you'll be in love with something because you can't find any fault with it. I don't think that that's always not objective. I mean, sometimes there's things that you just, don't have a lot of negative things to say about it. But I would definitely, I know this is just the first round, but I mean, I would certainly like to see Coolio vids in the future choose something that he has more critical things to say about, because I think it's a lot easier to just grab something and kind of like Vince said, you give a backstory and then it's, and I'm eating it now, and it's really good. I kind of had that same thing. On the other hand, he's really, really funny, and he's a lot of fun to listen to, and he's got a personality. I just think that he's letting his personality kind of drive the whole thing, and I'd like to see him really step it up with the critical thinking. So now we're going to go on to Zazubaar's review of milk chocolate Milanos.
Cookies are a huge part of our childhood. They were that one food that you could always rely on to make you feel better and satisfy any sweet tooth. Of course, there's a nearly tangible nostalgia for chocolate chip cookies. However, one I never hear a lot of people talk about is Milano cookies. Yeah, those weird ones that come in bags instead of boxes. I loved Milano cookies as a kid, especially the dark chocolate ones, because when you're a kid, you can't get enough chocolate as well as cookies. But today, we're not talking about dark chocolate Milanos. We're talking about milk chocolate Milanos.
The first thing I thought of when I saw this is that his opening style, sort of, here's a cookie, and now let's segue into this cookie, sort of reminded me of how I open some of my videos, and I cannot find any fault in anything I do, so it must be good for him too. So I was tickled by that. Again, like most of these, he did use some good word choices. There's one in particular. He compared the chocolate to a majestic silk dress, which I thought was just hilarious. And
it doesn't sound tasty to me.
But in a competition, well, in a challenge where the emphasis is on word choice, I guess it isn't a very tasty thing, but it is very evocative, I guess you could say. And that.
Oh no, that's true. No, I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of him. I kind of actually like that, but
nobody else compared their food to a silk dress that's majestic.
No, that's true.
The only things that the only things that I felt were problems were his microphone did pop a bit. I think that he got a little bit too close to it sometimes, and maybe it's just because I was listening to it on a headset, but it really got to be distracting after a while, so maybe he could just, in the future, just stand a little back or, increase the mic settings. That doesn't happen. The biscuit, the chocolate, he described the packaging, how Pepperidge Farm caters to a certain kind of customer, and so it covered pretty much all the points. I think it sort of lacked some of the things that Sid Part 2 had by essence of having that sort of on camera, I'm eating this right now, here's what I think of this specific thing, but he did have a lot of other strong things going for him.
Well, I love Milano cookies, and I don't often eat them. I usually only eat them when I have a really bad breakup and I need to just sit on the couch and eat them in front of Lifetime for hours until I'm kind of over the breakup. But I really like Zazubaar's delivery a lot. I think like Coolio Vids, he has, and Blues as well, he has a nice kind of on-camera presence, and his word choice is actually really good. The silk dress of chocolate, I think, should be stolen as a tagline. I think they could definitely use that. Since we're here on Geekvolution, I can't fully comment on that line. But I actually laughed a lot at that line. It actually reminded me, Logan, I don't know if you remember King 1919's description of the movie The Dark Knight as a steak.
Oh yeah, no. He still is always giving me messages where he's like, I want some steak.
Yeah, I just constantly think about. I thought of that. I was instantly reminded of that. So yeah, I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I don't know if I have any real thoughtful bad critiques.
I want to start with something that seems insignificant. I liked his little bit that he had about dark chocolate versus milk chocolate. I thought that was really funny, and. Reason being is that it was so unimportant seemingly. I just expected something like dun 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 to occur after it's not dark chocolate, this is milk chocolate. Anyway. I thought his word choice was largely good. I thought his description was very good, and I thought he was starting to delve into things, and then he started describing it as majestic and sophisticated, and I thought, well, how regal is it really? I mean, how complex is it really? Because he's describing it as being very simple, or like it's a chalky little biscuit with a particular kind of chocolate in the middle, and then he calls it sophisticated, and I think, is it really sophisticated? It seems to conflict in my head.
Hey, Vince, it's a silk dress, okay?
Why are you not getting this?
What is so strange about that?
I don't understand how they fit a whole dress into a single cookie. That's what I'm saying. I just don't get it. But yeah, I thought it was a good review overall. I can appreciate his effort at creating a simile or a metaphor or whatever it was. I forget now. But I liked it. I just thought his word choice and some of his word repetition, because he kept saying it over and over, like he couldn't figure out what he wanted to do with those words, sophisticated and majestic.
I think this guy really knows what he wants from his review. I thought the review itself was pretty well timed. There didn't really seem to be a lot of uncertainties as to what he was wanting to say. I guess really the review itself was scripted out, but it was timed pretty good, and I didn't find myself at any point uninterested by what he was saying. I found he did a pretty good job of marrying like the informative part of the cookie and kind of talking about the cookie itself to his personal opinions of it as well. Overall, I found it was a really solid review. The only thing I would really say is the lack of visuals. I think the notion that I think he had like 1, 2, maybe he had 3 stills that he was going in between. And I think, with the silk dress and everything else, describing as much as he did, some live footage of a plate of cookies while he was saying that, or maybe the expression on his face, or something, I think would have nicely broken up the pace of what we were seeing visually, matching what he was saying, in his narrative. But I think aside from that, maybe hopefully it's not something that's going to be a problem looking ahead for other reviews that he's going to do, where it's always going to be like that format. It'd be nice to see him maybe break it up for future videos. That's about the only thing I would really critique him on, but very solid overall, though.
When you were talking about just a couple stills, I was reminded a little bit of Shades at Night scissor review.
I see that.
Thought I'd throw that out.
No, I see that.
Interesting.
I had the same problem Vince did with word choice, and I think that his writing is pretty good most of the time. It's just sometimes it comes off to me as a little bit too English papery. I like to see more synonyms. Like he throws out the word however a lot, and I find myself thinking, well, there's other words to use. You know, I mean, you can say but. I mean, there's different words you can use for that transition. It seems like he's trying really hard to be a lot more formal than he needs to be, and it's fine to script your review. I'm no good off the cuff. In fact, I wish I had written everything I'm saying right this very minute. I'm no good off the cuff, so I totally understand scripting. I do that too, but you want to try as hard as you can to be conversational. I almost said controversial. You want to try to be you want to try to be as conversational as possible. And understand this is something that I struggle with sometimes too. So I'm not trying to dog you real hard for it. I'm just saying that we're kindred spirits in this. Also, when you're editing, try to listen to the sentences that you've recorded right after you edit them. So when you're in the editing room and when you're splicing sentences together, especially if you cut one off or you blend like two takes together. This is something I do quite a bit. You can very easily accidentally cut off a sentence, and that comes off as, not very professional. And there is a place or two where a sentence just straight cuts off, and I have no idea what the ending of it was, and that's really glaring. So it's a mistake that's easily made, but it's also really easy to fix. I don't have anything else to say that nobody else said, so we'll go ahead and move right on to the Curious Lowe's review of a drink called, what is it, Ramnune? How do you say it?
Actually that sort of leads right into the first thing I was going to say.
Well, go ahead, Lance Fusion.
I don't know, this might sound nitpicky, but just hear me out. It's, the drink is pronounced Ramnune, and she mispronounces it.
Hello, it is the Curious Low. Lauren here with another review today. So I've got something a little bit different for you guys. I've got this drink called Ramu drink. I've got the lychee flavored today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The big thing about this type of drink, the big kind of gimmick, is that it's stopped with I just dropped the cap. It's stopped with a marble. There's a marble stopped right in there, and it comes with this little cap thing that was right on top. And I'm going to try and force it down. Gabe, can you come open this for me? Thanks. We've got the marble down in there. You can see it right in there.
It does sound kind of nitpicky. It did jump out to me. I did actually look it up just to make sure before I said anything on the internet and got myself in trouble for it. I did look it up. It didn't take very long to find out just to make sure. But it's one of those things where, say you're watching a review of like your favorite television show, and the guy the reviewer has a lot of good points, but if he keeps on referring to the show completely unironically as Star Trek Deep Space 8. then you're gonna be wondering, about credibility. Although that said, and I did find that very distracting. It does sort of tie into her review structure on this, which is different from anybody else's. As I said, Sid Part 2 and Coolio Vids both did in-process reviews. She did an entirely spontaneous review. She says before this that she'd never, at least not had that flavor before.
I don't think she'd had the drink before.
Yeah, probably that too. So yeah, so it was interesting choice to get her exact spontaneous reaction to that as it happened. Unless she was lying about that, it was totally unstaged. There wasn't anything scripted about it, which was interesting. I don't know if it worked as well as some of the other people's choices, but I thought that made her stand out. Like I said, the mispronunciation did sort of grate on me a little bit. I enjoyed it was a good selection, I thought, choosing that type of drink, because not only do you have the food product itself, you also have the container that it comes in, which is a whole other thing to talk about. So I thought she gave herself plenty of good things to review. It's like a 2-in-1 review, which I thought was good.
I actually thought that Curious Low's choice of trying it for the first time on camera in the review was kind of a brave choice, and I was almost hoping she'd hate it. Actually, I would have made a very interesting review. That almost reminds me of, there was this one time my ex handed me this little green pea. And, we were hanging out in the kitchen, and she goes, hey, try this. And I didn't know what it was, and I tasted it, and it instantly exploded in my mouth, causing, like, eruption of fire and hatred. It was a wasabi paste.
Wasabi, yeah.
Yeah, and I turned around and saw her, like, on the floor laughing into convulsions.
Hence the statement of X, yes.
Yeah. But yes. So I don't know.
Too bad you didn't shoot it. That would have been a great YouTube video.
That would have been a fantastic video. I do like the fact that she was going into how to open, because it's a Japanese product, so it has an interesting method of opening, which I'm glad she included that into the thing, which she couldn't figure it out, so she needed, who's that guy? Helping out in the video?
Mr. Corelli?
Mr. Corelli. Oh, okay. I thought that was the professor. But let's see. Yeah, she was able to give a good explanation on taste. It could have actually been a little dangerous for her for this video, because what if nothing occurred to her like trying it? What if it tasted just okay and maybe words had escaped her? So I thought it paid off, thankfully. She does have a good on-screen presence, so it worked out pretty well.
I think the Curious Low's informal method ultimately works to her benefit. I think it seemed to me anyway that she started off just a little nervous, just a little unsure of herself. Maybe it's the fact that she was reviewing a drink. Maybe it was the fact that she was reviewing a drink that she'd never tried before. But she seemed to start off just a little unsure of her footing, and then she's willing to admit on camera, she's willing to show fault that she can't do something. And then because of that, or at least I feel like because of that, she ultimately recovers, and it's a better video because of it. So I think that's interesting, to be able to show fault to your viewer, to make them come to your side. Her description is interesting to me because it's relational. It's like it tastes like fresh raspberries and strawberries mixed together, but not like syrup. I think that's interesting. I think when I was really getting into listening to these people's descriptions, I wanted something that was telling me how something tastes, and I wanted them to try to use adjectives rather than relation, but it worked for me.
To shoot the video as she did on the fly, I think was a big gamble, but it clearly paid off for her, because I think not relying on editing, or I mean, there was a bit of editing involved, but not really relying on anything other than herself on camera. She really came across as personable, and I do have to agree with Vince. The notion that she accepted that she was unable to open it, I think made her even more personable. And I think sometimes reviewers try so hard to be so professional, to be so formal, that a lot of the viewers don't feel like they can get pulled in. I think the mark of a good reviewer is one that can say on camera, oh, I can't do this, but can immediately pick themselves up and recover and almost use it as momentum for the rest of the review. I don't really have any fault. I was watching the video trying to find a real fault to it. The only thing I would have maybe done is done at some point a close up to the bottle so that people can kind of get a better look at the marble. From a distance you can kind of understand what it is, but maybe a close up would have been nice. But aside from that, it was a pretty strong review.
I don't know if she's planning on keeping this and doing it every time, but I would say that I really liked her opener. Her hello, it's the Curious Low. I liked that.
That was good.
I think she should use that. I think that's a great catchphrase. I've got some kind of a trademark opening for most of my shows, and just from my experience, viewers seem to really latch on to that kind of thing. I like that she chose something she hasn't had before. I agree with that with the rest of you guys. I was more engaged, I think, with this video than most of the others, just because I found myself kind of really curious to see what her first experience with this drink was going to be like. And I think she did a really great job of sucking us in that way. The only negative criticism I have at all is that I think the editing could be a little bit tighter. There are a couple places where I think she cuts off in the like right at the tail end of a syllable of a word, where it feels like the word cuts off a little bit, or she lets it linger just a little bit too long. And at the risk of being obnoxious, I would say that the person to really watch for that, for really good tight editing, would be Mr. Corelli, and he's a pro at it. And again, the descriptions, like everybody was saying, were really fantastic. Real quick, this is a tip I wanted to give for everybody. This is not a big major thing, but it might be a suggestion that will be helpful for some people. She has a good send-off, but then at the very end, it just cuts straight off. And I think something that everybody can do to make their videos a little bit more professional looking is to have a quick fade in and a quick fade out. right at the end of your video, so that there's like a couple seconds of black right at the end after you've said something just before the YouTube video shuts off, so that we're hanging on your last word for a couple seconds while we feel like we're still there with you, as opposed to we're thinking about the last thing you said, but now we're looking at all these other videos that are all related to your video. Just a little suggestion for how to end a video.
I wanted to comment on something.
Go ahead, Vince. Yeah, sure.
I think you make a terrific point about how to pronounce something and getting it right the first time. But I have to say that I sympathize with her because I've sort of coined an unintentional Geekvolution phrase, which is or however you pronounce that gentleman's name. So,
I can certainly sympathize too, because it's happened to me. It's like on my Power Rangers videos, I slightly softened the syllable of Jew Ranger to slightly Jew Ranger, and people do not ever let that go.
Wow.
I've done a whole commentary video explaining why I pronounced it that way, and I still have like comments like at least once a week going, "Why are you saying it like that?" In a way, that's almost the reason why I'm making a big deal out of this, because I understand how people do react to that.
Okay, let's go ahead and go on into BK Critic's review of White Chocolate Kit Kats.
Out of all the candies I loved in my childhood, Kit Kats were my favorite. They were short, sweet, and you could easily just crack them off and put them in your mouth. White Chocolate Kit Kats were another story. I never ate White Chocolate Kit Kats when I was younger, because I was never really a fan of white chocolate. It was a little too sweet for me, and I'd much rather stick with the original milk chocolate or dark chocolate. But today I'm going to be looking at White Chocolate Kit Kats with a bit of a critical eye, looking at the marketing it uses on its packaging, and overall how it tastes.
Okay, I wanted to say first of all, similar to sXeblues' Mountain Dew logos, I thought it was me being crazy. I thought it was nice seeing the different international versions of Kit Kats peppered throughout this video. I'm not entirely sure, since he was doing specifically White Chocolate Kit Kat, I don't know if all of those really necessarily relate. I also thought it was slightly odd. I don't know if this really matters at all, but simply because I thought it was odd that he did White Chocolate Kit Kat when one of the audition videos did a Halloween Kit Kat as well.
Yeah, Lazy Kid Reviews.
He had some background noise going on during a lot of the video, like a chair moving, and it was a little bit distracting. Sort of the opposite of the Curious Low, where she had the sort of really strong personality to grab you and really sort of make you want to listen. His voice did not really carry for me this time, not as well as it did in his audition video. There was something about it that just sort of sat there for me, and wasn't able to really hold my attention as well as most of the rest of the videos.
Through parts of this video, it did seem like maybe he did get a little, monotone or just bored, maybe with the subject matter or something like that. Maybe he could have cut maybe 30 seconds out of it, or maybe just done a quick refresh on the material. He did kind of compare it with the standard Kit Kat, which I liked a lot, and I thought he was very detailed on taste, actually, which is interesting. I've had like 8 million Kit Kats, but it was still nice hearing, how he described the crunch of a Kit Kat. It is one of my favorite candy bars, by the way. I really like that. Although there was one close-up of it during the video that looked, with it broken, and a close-up of it, it looked kind of gross, actually. I don't know if it was supposed to be appealing or unappealing, but it suddenly made me not want one. Because it looked like it was covered in ice and just...
Really? I had the opposite response. I really wanted a Kit Kat when I saw that.
See, well, I did on all the other pictures. It's just that one didn't really do it for me. You know, it would have been nice if BK Critic had used this opportunity to review something from Burger King.
I don't know why he calls himself BK Critic, but he's probably going to hate you now for saying...
BK Critic, he assigns approval and disapproval to varying aspects of the Kit Kat itself. I think he does the best job of all the reviewers of spacing his review and his history together. I don't feel like it's, here's this part, and now that I've done that part that I'm really good at, let's talk about describing what the food is like. I think he's the one that really sort of meshes it all together, and he says, I'm going to assign approval and disapproval to how the chocolate reacts with the wafer inside, or the consistency of the chocolate, or whatever this is, however that tastes, and adjectives yay. So I think he did a very good job of describing things. I think that he says he's going to tackle the marketing, and then like it was going to be a big subject heading, but then he meshes it all in together. So I thought he did well, and I just thought that calling attention to the fact that he's tackling the marketing was really strange to me. It wasn't really a big deal. I'm just tossing it out there. I think that it's also important. One of the negative things I want to say is that I think it's important to retake things. If you're shooting a video by yourself, it's important to know that you can retake things so that you don't have to post things that have like scraping noises in the background or unintentional stuttering, things like this. It's different with a podcast, but still, okay, I'm done.
I don't know if this was necessarily one of my favorite reviews in this contest. It seemed well written. The narrative, I think, worked well in the actual video. I like the fact that he was incorporating his childhood thoughts on the actual candy bar. The thing about his review is kind of the one thing I had an issue with some of the other videos in this contest so far in this first challenge was the not necessarily the crutch, but relying very heavy on stills to carry the visuals rather than, like when we first heard the challenge, I automatically thought, and it might just be the way that I shoot my reviews, I automatically thought that like a lot of these people were going to either be on camera eating it or they were going to be doing a first person perspective of them consuming whatever it is they're reviewing. And it might just be my preference, but to watch stills like that, I don't feel like I'm really engaged in the video. There were actually a couple of scenes as well, a couple of stills where it didn't look like he used production photos as much as he used photos that he took himself, which would then make me think, well, if he took them himself, it would have almost been nicer if he had actually just shot live footage of it and then just done narrative over top of it. It was a strong entry. It was a very, very well written, but I think on the visuals is where I think I might have improved it just a slight bit.
Spot, I completely agree with that. I do want to say that, just to be fair, there may be some people who just don't have a video camera and can't shoot footage.
Sure.
Or maybe they have a webcam, but their webcam is not that great, so they figure, well, we'll complain because we can't really see what's going on. That sort of thing. And I'm pretty sure, if I can remember right, that BK's initial entry video was this way also, so maybe he just can't shoot footage. But, I mean, your point is well taken anyway. My biggest complaint is that there's way too much dead air. There are several places where it's 3, 4, 5 seconds where we don't hear anything, and that's easily fixed in editing. He probably isn't editing. If you don't know, and I'm not making fun of anybody. I get this from people sometimes. Actually, I'll get messages where people say, "Look, I just don't know how to edit things. I don't know what program to use. I don't know." If anybody in the contest has that problem, let me know and I'll give you some pointers. But if not, if you do have software and you don't have any problem with that, throw it in your editor and make sure to get rid of those places where there's a bunch of dead air. The point he made that I liked the most was that he liked the Kit Kat when he was a kid, but not as much now. That was the point that I really would have liked to have seen him expand on, because I thought that was really interesting. That seemed to be his biggest critique, where it was like, this is for kids. Now that I'm an adult, I don't really appreciate it as much, and I would have liked to have known why. I thought that it was a little bit strange hearing someone explain in depth about something that most of us have had before. That's not a huge problem. It's just that, I think that sometimes with some of these challenges, you need to think just a little bit about like the choice of the thing you've picked. So even if we say, well, you want to go into great detail, if it's something that most people are going to know about, you might want to focus on certain things more than other things. I hope that's not too cryptic. But I felt like, well, I've had a Kit Kat, I know what you're talking about. But anyway, so maybe that was just a choice thing for me, and maybe it was just a taste issue. No pun intended. It's time now for the final entry. It's DPSTQ2's review of, boy, that's going to be fun to say, isn't it? Of carnival-style popcorn.
In one way or another, you've come across this type of snack and mooched on it in some form, flavor, design, and enjoyed it from time to time. And what I speak of is that of corn, which has been popped. The kind that I'm presenting here is what you may call carnival style, the most common type people would point to as the popular image of this food. This was made in my local supermarket in the Delhi area, and I went through the old-fashioned process by going through a standard popcorn machine and combust from kernel to puff. And though it was made in my deli, the corn was supplied by overwritten buttered corn.
You think maybe it's supposed to be dipstick? 2?
See, I didn't want to go there. I don't know. I need to just jump right in and be like, and now it's time for Dipstick 2's review.
That just came to me, that moment. I never even considered that until now.
Maybe he'll let us know.
I guess so. We will find out. Like just like a couple other ones. I think there was some choppy editing in this where he cuts off a couple of his words at certain points, and there was a pretty abrupt ending, and there was one section where his camera was set too low and it was cutting off his eyes, like just barely cutting off his eyes. That was kind of odd. But all that said, I really liked this one because there was I thought he did a good job of doing a combination of still frame off camera stuff and then leading into him being on camera and actually eating the food and showing you the food. I remember when it first started and he was talking about, I got this from the deli at my grocery store. I was thinking it would be nice at this point to see, to be on camera now and show this. And then just that moment, there he was on camera, and it was like, wow, he made this review just for me. He knew exactly what I wanted out of this. But yeah, his strengths there were knowing how to structure it, and I thought it was very well written. And I think he sounded very much like a food critic. It's probably one of the most professional sounding reviews of this, as if he actually usually did review popcorn.
I will start off talking about the bad first, and I agree with Lance about a little bit of the choppy editing. Yeah, he does kind of cut off the top of his head near the end. And there's a close-up of him, of his hand holding the popcorn piece, and it's maybe slightly blurry, maybe if he'd pulled back a little bit. But other than that, I really did enjoy this video. I do enjoy the fact that he was able to break it up with, a voiceover with still frames, and then himself actually eating the popcorn. And I like the fact that he chose to go with a particular popcorn. He went with the carnival style, where you could get it. And you know what? Popcorn and hot dogs have this kind of similar vibe where I don't care if it's awful. I enjoy it. Like if I get it at some kind of carnival or a movie theater and it's not so great, but it's
like, this is the stalest hot dog I've ever had.
Yeah, and you still enjoy it. I don't know why, but it just works that way. He approached how popcorn is kind of viewed in our culture a little bit too, and I really kind of like that. I also like the shot of the bacon pop.
Yeah.
Which, the thought of which was nauseating.
No, it was.
You should have maybe reviewed that. That would have been great. Outside of just some minor editing nitpicks, I enjoyed the video quite a bit.
He isolates like popcorn issues, which was interesting to me. He talks about the individual flavors and thus the ingredients that go into it. He talks about the durability, the practicality, whether or not it's enjoyable, how to store it, the longevity. He really gets into the popcorn experience. And
I'm sorry, I don't know why that's funny.
I think the popcorn experience is the opening act to the Pink Floyd experience. I think that he really didn't get into the flavor of the popcorn very much because, well, that's sort of the drawback of what he chose. I mean, he talked about how well butter and popped corn and salt mixed together, but beyond that, I don't know how much you can really say about butter, salt, and popcorn. He's so dry. That's something I want to break. I don't know what to do with that. I just think I should mention it. He's so dry, and some of his attempts at humor, like throwing the popcorn into his face, I thought, I'm not certain if I really think this is funny or if this is just amusing to me in some way that I want to think it's funny because I want to like the guy who has put so much effort into this particular video. But, and I'm not saying that he should wholly divorce himself from comedy. I mean, sure, try to liven up your videos, try to make an entertaining piece. I just sit there and think, man, this guy, he's almost there. I don't know what he can do to make it more entertaining.
This was one of my favorite reviews. I found it was very clear, well spoken. I like the aspect. It's funny, when I watched this video, it was the last video I watched. I watched him basically from the last entry first, and I worked my way back. So I had kind of already experienced the idea of, a couple of the reviews where they were using stills and then just do narrative over top. And when he started doing his review, I kind of was experiencing, I was thinking, okay, we're going to kind of go through that same format. And I was very pleasantly surprised that he did mix and marry the two, the idea of being on camera and using the stills and narrative. It wasn't kind of localized where it was only this at one given time and then the rest of it was stills or vice versa. He kind of mixed and matched it, which I thought was really, really good. I like the fact that he gave a placement to the popcorn as well. It wasn't just simply, I'm just reviewing popcorn. He kind of gave it a bit of a backstory. He gave the popcorn almost a life of its own, giving it a bit of an origin story, as it were. The only thing I would really gripe on is probably just comments that have already been made. Always knowing where your camera is very crucial. And for the fact that it was very little of his head that got cut off near the top, it's enough that once you see it, you can't help but not look at anything else but that. And I think that's about the only thing I would say is work on is know where the camera is at all times. But a pretty solid review though.
I guess I'm the only person who had this problem, which I'm sort of surprised by, so this is probably going to come off as like really, really rough or something. I didn't really care for a lot of his word choice. Maybe it was less word choice and more like the way he put sentences together sometimes. Sometimes it felt kind of clunky and it didn't feel very natural. I have never said this before. On Who Reviews the Reviewers, but I'm going to say something opposite of something I said a lot last season for other people. I like to see him do a completely off-the-cuff review and not script anything. Because the sections where he seemed to not be on book, I thought were way better than the ones when he was on book. And actually I said that word choice wasn't the problem. I actually have an example of actually a place where it was. There's a place where he says, it's just plain, bland, and plain. It just there's a lot of repetitive words happening in some of the sentences, and like I said, it just doesn't seem very natural, and sometimes maybe a little bit too flowery. On the other hand, he's got some really great details. I liked where he was talking like, unlike some popcorn you've had, this doesn't taste like styrofoam. It's not too messy. There's also a weird experience I had where I didn't expect to ever see him on camera, so when he did, it kind of surprised me. I think he should have opened it with himself being on camera. Maybe that's just me, but I thought that the pacing was a little bit awkward, where it was like, I'm not sure why you're on camera at this particular point where we saw, pictures that you pulled from the internet early on, but then now you're on camera describing it. I would have liked that earlier. I'm not saying the whole thing needs to be him on camera. I just would have liked to have seen him at the beginning. Those are all my notes there. So now it's time to choose the top banana. It's actually funny. Somebody could have reviewed a banana. They could have.
Somebody really should have.
Somebody could have reviewed a top banana. Okay.
Yes, pander to us.
Oh, like you've never done that. Okay,
I'm going to review Panda Steak. Pander to us.
I don't get it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start and do the same order we did before with the deliberations. And Lance, who is your top banana for today?
Ooh, dang. This is the part where I kind of wish I wasn't the first person, because now it's like all the pressure's on me. Hazing the new guy.
This is part of your prize.
I'm sort of torn between a couple of people for two wildly different videos for two wildly different reasons, but I'm probably going to be going a bit against the grain here. I'm going to say Milan Jeftik 1992. I could probably listen to his squeaky chipmunk voice all day. Although
I'm still reeling from it.
although I don't think he should make a habit of that. But it worked this time. Somehow just what he was saying and the way he was saying it just really almost made me want to try borscht. I don't know. It just felt really visceral to it. I don't know.
You want to get some helium balloons and try some Russian soup.
That too. But that's unrelated.
Very light flavor to that borscht.
Manos.
Well, there was a lot of good reviews on this opening week. I went back through 2 or 3 and I feel like I'm just going to have to go with Mistare Fusion this week.
Yes, that's what I was hoping for.
Oh, wait. Sorry, my mistake. I'm seriously going to go...
since 2011.
It was 2011 we were still doing the last season?
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Couldn't think of a better show. Yeah, sorry.
No,
but it's not round one of season one.
The first semester of season 2.
Gotcha.
I would take that top banana vote, okay? I don't care what anybody says.
You're my first choice, man. But, alright, my second choice is alright for top banana. Would definitely have to be Sid Part 2. I really like the humor and kind of the personal story that went into this, what could have been just a simple review of a pizza.
Vince.
I was a little torn between two. I was a little torn between BK Critic and Sid Part 2. But I'm going to choose Sid Part 2 because I feel like the descriptive nature, considering that's the point of this exercise, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I think that
it's a challenge, Vince. It's a challenge.
This is not a reviewing
It's a silk dress.
But yeah, I choose Sid Part 2 because I felt like the ability to describe came more naturally to him in this particular situation, despite the fact that I feel like he's trying to run around the time constraints. But anyway, like this video, I choose Sid Part 2.
Spot.
I guess I'm going to throw a cog in the wheel because, I don't know, when I hear food review, I don't think of it as necessarily as structured as some of the videos were here. So therefore, like, what I'm kind of thinking for my top two, and it's a split decision for me, surprisingly enough, I liked sXeblues. I'd probably say between him and Curious Low, I'd probably go the Curious Low, just because I kind of think the food reviews should be a little more approachable. So I'm probably going to Curious Low.
Spot, I absolutely agree with you. I too am choosing Curious Low. That gives us a tie this time for a top banana, but that's okay because we don't have to do a tiebreaker for a top banana. We would if it were the vote off. But anyway, so Sid Part 2 and Curious Low both got top banana. Again, Spot, I totally agree with you about Curious Low. I thought she had the most approachable review. I thought she had the best choice for a lot of reasons, which I stated earlier. And I think she's so far in my mind she's the most personable of the 8. And I really enjoyed that. That goes a long, long way for me. And now it's time to vote someone off. And Lance has the distinguished pleasure of choosing first.
Yeah. See, I was looking ahead when I was saying that earlier because this is the part that I was really and I know when this is played back, there's going to be some kind of ominous music playing in the background. Because I had to sit through this so many times, and so you might think it'd be nice to be on the other end for once, and in a way it is. But
it's hard though, isn't it?
Especially in the first round, because you have someone is going to go home today, and emotional turmoil going on right now. I don't. But this is what I signed up for, and I'm going to be courageous.
You're afraid of bricks through your window, aren't you?
That too. Man, I never should have given out my address on all of my videos. Only I'd seen this coming. It's a little bit embarrassing. I was actually edging towards the Curious Low for a moment. Just, she won.
No, that's okay. You're wrong, but that's okay.
I was just as I said, the mispronunciation did sort of taint it for me. I know that sounds kind of petty, but her personality her presence did bring it back just enough for me to not vote her off today. So actually instead I'm going to have to sadly cast my vote for BK Critic because like I said, it just did not grab me. For whatever reason, it just did not stand out compared to the rest of them.
I, of course, had a little trouble at first just settling, but I just have to go with Milan Jeftik on 1992. I like his work, and I like the actual script of his piece, but I think it's just a case of just a wrong creative choice that just made the video very difficult for me, and I'm sorry.
Good, Vince.
I really like Coolio vids, I really like this guy's ability to be entertaining. But I feel that, and I don't want to vote him off because I want to see what he could bring to another competition or to another challenge. But I'm going to vote for Coolio Vids because I'm going to vote off Coolio Vids because I feel like he was the least descriptive out of the group, fortunately.
Okay, Spot.
I was torn between Milan Jeftik 1992 and BK Critic. At the end of the day, though, I mean, the Russian Soup Review had content, it had talent. I shouldn't say talent. He clearly had a grasp of what he was doing. He just made a really bad choice of how to present it. But I think there's a lot of potential there. Unfortunately, with BK Critic, I don't know if it was just the stills that was doing it for me. But again, I just wasn't all that into the video itself. Like, I was watching the video and it was something to watch, but I don't know if I was really engaged in the video. So I'm going to say BK Critic.
And my choice was also BK Critic. He for me was just I don't want to say the driest of them, because like Vince said, DPQ, etc. What's his name again? DPSTQ2. Sorry. I really should have asked these people how to pronounce their names.
I think it was George Lucas's first film.
But I felt the same way that Fusion did about it didn't grab me, and he seemed just kind of uninterested. Of the 8, he seemed to be the most. I don't want to say it was thrown together. I mean, I think he had a lot of good ideas. It really kind of fell flat. And of the 8, it was the one that, I don't know, at least impressed me. So again, I'm sorry. I always feel like we should write sympathy cards when we do these. I just feel awful voting people off. But yeah, I too agree about BK Critic, and that's 3 votes against BK Critic. So unfortunately, he is gone. Thanks a bunch for being with us and for and for trying this out. I'm sorry that we had to vote you off. Sorry, that's just a moment of silence. Okay.
He was in one of my top.
I thought that's what we were doing.
Take solace in that.
Somber moment.
And now let me go ahead and reveal what the round 2 challenge is. This is actually something that Manos and I came up with together. Thanks, Manos, for helping me come up with the challenge. The challenge we'd like the remaining 7 to do for next time is to pick an entertainer, anyone in popular culture, an entertainer, and review their body of work. Review an entertainer's body of work. So choose any famous person from any genre of entertainment and review their work. Do it as an overview style. We didn't do this last year. We didn't do any kind of overview style videos, but you can do a critical review that isn't especially in depth on any one subject, but something a little bit more broad that's still very critical, and that's what we're asking for this time. So you're only going to have a 4-minute time limit. So you're being asked to do a whole body of work in 4 minutes. That's the hard part. So you want to focus on the person's work as a whole, focus on their patterns, the different stages in their career, how they've improved or declined as they've gone on in their career, and again, remember to be critical. Which of their works do you think are the best? Which are the worst, and why? And remember that old adage that nobody's perfect. So choose somebody you either greatly admire or at least feel strongly about in some way. You don't have to pick somebody that you love, but the idea here, the focus here is on a passion for a subject matter and also entertainment factor. So we want to see your interest, and we want to see an interest that's infectious, even if you choose somebody that we don't know or we don't care much about ourselves. Be informative, be interesting, again, be entertaining, and you can approach that however you want to. You don't have to throw out hilarious jokes every couple seconds, but entertainment factor is definitely the main focus for this one, and it's also going to be a lot about honing in on your personal style. We talk a lot about people's personal styles in this first challenge, and we want to see that coming more and more together as this goes on. We want to see people getting more and more comfortable with a particular style that they're going with for themselves. Like I said, the time limit is 4 minutes, and this one's going to be due a week from the day this video is posted, and you'll see the date right there on your screen. I'm not sure exactly when this is going up, so I'm not going to say a date right now, but 1 week from there's the date on your screen. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening to Who Reviews the Reviewers. That is it for today's program, and we'd like to thank you once again for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince.
Well, I am the Real Manos, I guess.
I'm the Review Spot.
And I am
I guess.
MistareFusion, storied winner of last season 2 reviews. The reviewers never forget. Never forget that I won. First time. Yeah.
The leader is great.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll all see you right back here for round 2 in a couple weeks.